faces. John's calling in. He said John's going to be not on the screen but on phone.
Well, there really isn't a screen, is there?
Well, I guess he's doing it by phone, not Zoom, where his face is up there. Yeah, I got that payoff letter too. So what do we have to do? Just type up the date? And the payoff amounts good through some date in September. But then if it goes up like $2 a day or something. Well, the payoff letter, the payoff amount is good through like the middle of December. If it goes past that, then you have to add like $2 on it. It's like it's nothing. Is what I'm saying. No.
But I think it's
Won the football bowl.
So you're telling me if you have that payoff note, you can write up the deed. That's all we do. All right, let's try to do it. I'm trying to get out of it.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Hey, how are you? I'm handing her the deed, and she's paying me enough to pay off the bank. She's paying. That's the end of it. I'm out of it. It's off my name. I don't own the house anymore. I've been trying to get out of the house for 2 years. It's a disaster. You wouldn't believe where it's at. What do you need me to just send you the payoff amount? Who's this coming from? Cameras. Is this a news team? Who's this now? Oh. I guess we're making the news again. Looks like we're making the news again tonight. Looks like I don't know. Somebody's setting up from the news studio. Looks like. Hey Rick, how you doing? I don't know where he's from.
My number.
Come up here.
Ew. All right.
I don't see him either.
Yeah.
We sent him a letter.
Yes, I know. It's a nicer place.
Yeah, he's in the approved years. He's actually the first item. Hey Jim.
Can you hear us?
Did you go in? You know him? It's not
He sent the letter.
So he was there too?
I'm going to say.
I was thinking about that.
Try it.
How you doing?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you.
There we go. We got you.
Good for you. That's cool.
Frank's not going to be
Good.
I wanted to talk to you too about CDBG.
Let's get. We're gonna get a logo on you. Can you talk for a little bit?
Yep, 54321, 54321, 54321.
All right. I think we're good. Awesome. You can hear me here.
We don't care. I know, but what I'm saying.
John, how you doing? Good evening.
Good, how you doing?
Good. Can you hear my mic okay?
Yeah, I can hear your mic.
Okay. All right.
So we'll bid it in January, and we'll get it right out of the gate. We'll bidding in January, awarding in February. We want it done May 31st. This is the first one, right? Doing it in April, right? October, November. And 2 Thanksgivings ago, we did the same thing. Wednesday night Thanksgiving, it's dark. It's slow because you can't leave.
Good evening. It being 7 o'clock, we'll begin the meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
We can think of it. Oh, yeah, I'm okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. I would like to have a moment of silence in recognition of Christine Sepsi, who passed away this past week. She's a longtime resident and a longtime employee of Penn Hills. Truly someone who is very near and dear to our hearts here in the municipal building and throughout the community. Thank you. Before we begin, I see that the mayor of Verona is here. I'd like to welcome you, Mayor Racupo. Thank you so much for coming to Penn Hills.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Calabrese,
Present.
Councilman Petrucci,
Present.
Councilman Getzey,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Present.
Councilman Pecora.
He had called ahead and said he would not be present this evening. Nonetheless, we have a quorum. We actually have a physical quorum. Item number 4 is approval of the minutes. May I get a motion for approval of the minutes for August 16th, 2021 and September 20th, 2021?
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes, Deputy Mayor Sapp.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes and approve them for August 16th, 2021 and September 20th, 2021.
Thank you. May I get a second? Councilman Getzey, would you like to second that motion?
No.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Petrucci. Roll call.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes.
Okay, minutes approved.
I make a motion for, may I get a motion for the approval of the expenditures?
I'll make a motion for the approval of the expenditures. $3,101,874.60.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilman. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman. Any public comment? Any comment from council?
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes, one comment.
Just a moment, Councilman Petrucci. Deputy Mayor Sapp has a comment or a question. We'll move to you in a moment. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Under number 5, I see the ratification of October's expenses, and I just sat down to this, so I was just wondering if you can
Sure.
explain why this is different.
Our October meeting was not held, so we polled council to approve our October expenses. And so what this is tonight is a ratification of that prior vote, along with the approval of the November expenses. So it's actually 2 items.
Is
It could be done as one.
Is Councilman Petrucci making a motion on the ratification of October expenses and the approval of November expenses?
We just called for August and September. Or am I
The motion that he made was just for expenses. It didn't specify which month or whether it was one or both.
There's a total expenditures of $1,390,560. That was written off of the master that I just noticed.
Yeah, I see what you mean as well, Councilman.
So just so we're clear, there's 2 numbers. The first is $3,546,591.14. That's the ratification of October expenses. I think Councilman Petruzzi read the approval of the November expenses total. So we have to do, you can either do them one at a time or together. Do you see that, John, where there's two numbers here?
Yeah, I see it. The other one is $3,546,591.14.
So your motion is to approve both of those?
Both of them, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And then Councilman Petrucci, I think you had a question or comment?
No, I was pointing that out. There was two of them on there. That was what I was going to. Exactly what the solicitor just said.
Councilman Getzey, or is your second as to both of them as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Having said that, any public comment? Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci.
Yes.
Expenses approved.
Thank you.
We are now going to open public comment on the non-agenda items. Names will be called in the order in which they signed up to speak this evening. When you approach the podium, please state your name and address for the record. And please keep in mind that you are limited to 3 minutes. Gerald Schiller.
Gerald Schiller, 123 Fayburn Drive, Verona, Penn Hills. Actually, I live in the same home I was born in 1938. And it's interesting, in 1938, 40s, which I'm sure none of you remember, there were no white-tailed deer in Penn Hills. Actually, my uncles had to travel to northern counties to hunt. They were avid hunters. Now there are herds of white-tailed deer in Penn Hills, causing massive property damage and physical health damage. I trust Mr. Andrajek has given all of you a copy of the article from the Fox Chapel Herald on how Fox Chapel has successfully mediated their overpopulation of deer. And I'm wondering, my question is, what is Penn Hills doing to similarly remediate the outlandish problem that Penn Hills has? Particularly, why isn't the Penn Hills Police Department involved like Fox Chapel? They have Penn Hills Police. Is that me? I'm embarrassed. This is new to me and I don't know how to turn it off. Anyway, if you read the article, Penn Hills Fox Chapel Police Chief is intimately involved, and the crux of their success is having Fox Chapel policemen shoot fertile, prolific does who typically bear twins and triplets, which is the major problem of the overpopulation. It is outlandish that Penn Hills allows this to occur. And I'm just asking council and everybody, what is Penn Hills doing about this serious property and health damage? Lyme disease. Now I understand in an article last week they're carrying COVID-19. Any answers? I rest my case.
Thank you. What I wanted to express to you and to everyone here and the mayor and council is that I think the first step in this would be for the municipality to probably contact the State Game Commission. I've done a little bit of looking into this matter. Some of our other communities in Western Pennsylvania also went through something similar. And I didn't read the article specifically to Fox Chapel, but what I do know is that in communities that develop the program, the first step was for them to really find out whether or not there was an overpopulation. I think that we all can make a judgment as to whether we think there is, but I really think the first step would be for the municipality to work with the Game Commission and have them tell us if there is an overpopulation. And how do they do that? I don't know. I think they look at crash data. I think they look at other things, but I think that would be the starting point to know quantitatively if there is an overpopulation. I think a lot of people assume that there is and think that there is. They may be right.
Excuse me, I can't believe that anybody does not believe that there's an overpopulation of deer in every borough in Allegheny County.
It very well may be, but I could tell you that in communities that had success with it, that was their first step. So if the mayor and council wanted that to happen, then we could contact the Game Commission and they could do some preliminary looking to tell us if there is an overpopulation. I think that's step one of anything. So
The Game
that would
Commission
be the
is in
answer that
charge
I'm
of
giving you.
protecting the white-tailed deer.
Sure.
They have no interest in
Actually, you're
being
incorrect.
proactive in eliminating white-tailed deer in residential areas. White-tailed deer do not belong in residential areas. They belong in the woods in Somerset.
What I would share with you, sir, is if you look at
I mean,
did I finish? I'm sorry.
It's outlandish to even question whether there is an overpopulation of deer.
What I would-
drove by 2 carcasses getting here
Sure.
on 2 miles.
And you may very well be correct. I would tell you.
Any insurance
to look-
agency will
I'm
tell
sorry.
you how
Go ahead.
there's multiple crashes.
You know, one of the programs I would tell you to look at is the municipality of Mount Lebanon a few years ago went through a very similar process. And if you look at anything that was printed, anything that appeared in print about their deer management, that was the key takeaway, is that the first step was to work with the Game Commission for them to tell you the level of the problem.
I disagree. The first step is
Sure,
for the county, the
So
borough,
I feel I've
to
answered the
approach the
question.
Game Commission
Thank you.
on how to remediate their problem. I mean, if you read the article from Fox Chapel, it is not the Game Commission. They are going to do nothing. It is your job to approach the Game Commission and tell them how to work with them to remediate our problem. This is crazy. I've been documenting, I have a file full of articles, letters to the editor, written to the county, the Penn Hills.
Sir,
Mrs. Calabrese knows. Just 2 years ago, I sent her
right.
she's acknowledging it.
Yes, sir. Sir, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we share your concern. We all live here in Penn Hills as well. However, just to follow the protocol of the meeting, this is public comment. Sometimes we have workshop. Perhaps this could be a subject for a workshop. With all due respect, this is not a
Okay.
time for give and
I
take.
apologize. My hearing is impaired and I don't hear very well, but I rest my case. You read the Fox Chapel article. It's
Right.
detailed on what a plague they are, and if you do nothing, shame on you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Erin Vecchio contacted me earlier this evening, and she cannot be here tonight. Next on the agenda is a public hearing on the 2022 budget. Again, this is an opportunity, this is one of at least 2 public hearings on the budget, which gives you, as members of the public, an opportunity to express your thoughts and views about the 2022 spending plan. Similarly, when you approach the podium to address council on the budget, if you could please state your name and address for the record, and also keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, everybody. Most of you know me. I'm here this evening speaking on behalf of the Penn Hills Community Development Corporation.
There are some that don't. There are some that don't, Felix. So if you could please just give your name and address.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, Felix Catlin. I'm sorry. 223 Detour Drive. I'm here this evening on behalf of the Penn Hills Community Development Corporation. Our president, Sean Carestas, has asked me to speak briefly about a budget consideration that is very important to us. Within the rubric of the COVID monies, which I assume will be budgeted in some way in the next couple budgets, we have made a very detailed proposal about how to use a substantial amount of money in the nonprofit sector, which I understand there is a significant amount of money set aside for nonprofits from the COVID relief funds. Our proposal, we believe, is one of the few, if not only, formal proposals that was made and received by Mayor and Council. So we look very, very forward to hearing a result and seeing consideration in the budget for our programs that we've proposed. Keep that on your radar as you formulate your budgetary needs for the next year, and with the COVID monies, I believe 2 years. Thank you.
Faith Milazzo, 121 Castle Drive. Just have a handful of things I wanted to bring up. One is, well, I just want to acknowledge, I know Scott and Frank are talking about garbage cans for Penn Hills, so I'm really excited to think that this could happen, that Penn Hills could have some additional garbage cans that Public Works will empty. There's a lot of people that are in support of this, so hope that happens, and thank you. Also, I did study the budget carefully. I'm not sure if there are still positions on there next year for people to help pick up litter. I know that that was tried this past spring and there weren't many applicants. So I hope Penn Hills will look into doing that again and maybe advertise in a few more places. The thing that I do bring up every year, and I guess it's not that important or significant, is parking violations. I was looking at the budget and it seems like there were about $600 of parking fines, and I know it's just really a small drop in the bucket, but I see parking violations every day in my neighborhood. People continuously park under signs that say no parking, and I know we're a little bit understaffed with police, but we are, it looks like, gonna hire some more police officers. No one from traffic, I understand, but it would be great. It just, when people are able to, break the law or commit a violation and they don't get in trouble for that, then they're probably going to keep on doing that. So I like to bring that up every year, that I hope, maybe someday we can find more people for parking. Code, I was also happy to see, and I know we talked about this before, that there are going to be several more hires for code. So I'm hoping in the budget, I know it's just a projection, but I'm hoping that there will be more fines for code. I had requested this when members of the litter group talked to Scott in July. Many of us would love to have a workshop on code so we could understand the process more. It's just not clear to a lot of people. So if that's a possibility that this could happen in the new year, make that available to residents, I think that would be helpful, but I would love to see more fines because, people, again, they continue to get away with things, and it just signals to people that they can. Parks and Rec, I'm hoping that there could be something like when they had the Autumn Fest a few years ago. I mentioned that again. I mentioned that last year, but I would love to see something like that again, a nice event for the adults as other communities have. And then I have two questions. I wasn't sure, is the garbage contract, is that up in 2022? Because it seemed like it was the same price. So maybe we don't know the price for the garbage contract, so I wasn't sure about that. Because there have been some issues this year. And this is a very just specific question. I'm just curious for schools and conferences. It seems like that's a very large jump. Again, a budget of this size, it's minor, but I did notice that the schools and conference budget, that is about 40,000 more. So those were my two questions about the garbage contract and the schools and conferences. And I don't know if you are answering questions tonight, but yeah, that's it. So thank you.
I can tell you that the Republic Services contract, we are exercising an option year next year for 22. So there is no increase compared to what we pay in 21. As for the specific on the schools and conferences, I'd have to get you a little more detail as to maybe why that is, unless Sherry may know. I don't want to put her on the spot, but we could certainly get you an answer to that later today, tomorrow, or we do have another hearing next week. We would bring that information next week. Other comment on the budget?
Betty Arndt, 172 Highland Road. Good evening. I just wanted to ask for clarification about the library budget. I think it's maybe in the way the budget is laid out that it looks like the budget for the library is lower this coming year than it was in the current year. But if I recall, the explanation I got, and I just wanted everybody else to hear it, was that the monies are in sort of two different parts of the budget. So maybe you could just say that out loud so everybody else can hear about it too. Thank you.
Sure. With the library donation or allotment this year, half of those funds are paid out of the general fund, and the additional amount can be paid out of the stimulus money that we received. So you'll see that in the back under the American Rescue Plan, as well as under the library fund. So they're in two places this year.
But there's no overall change to what their programming is.
Correct.
Felix Catlin, 223 Detour Drive again. On the subject of the library, I think most of us know that a nonprofit has been formed at the library to start to create a little bit of distance between the municipal support for the library and some independent operation for the library with regard to hiring and other associations they may have with county libraries. So this budget, I believe, is a transitory budget towards a different kind of budget for the library in future. Can you elucidate us on any of that? Again, sort of in the vein of Betty's question, so the people know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good characterization to say that this next year is somewhat transitional, because there are certain expenses that are going to be paid by the nonprofit, and there are some expenses that are going to continue to be paid by the municipality until the transition is complete. I spoke with a librarian today, and I think at the beginning of December, she is going to present the mayor and council with her operating budget as to how they plan on using their allocation. The thinking going forward is that on an annual basis, the library and the library board would show the mayor and council what their budget is for the coming year, and then we, as the municipality, have to then fund that. And in addition, it gets funded in other ways, certain grant revenues that they're exploring. So that's how we're planning it this year. So the beginning of the next month, we're going to have the operational budget for the library as to what we're funding. It would be somewhat similar to any other nonprofit that we fund. But I don't even know that volunteer fire departments are a great example, because we give them an allocation every year, but we don't necessarily see all of what their budget does. We know what they do, certainly. So does that help?
Yes, thank you so much for the clarification.
Any further public comment on the budget?
Bill Mouch, 1335 Maple Avenue. I noticed on page 124 of the budget, code enforcement has 6 vehicles, and I understand there's only 1 code enforcement officer.
No, there's more than that.
Is that right?
There's more than 1 code officer.
Okay, it said 6 vehicles. on page 124. And senior services on page 126 also had 6 vehicles, and I understand why. But I was wondering, like most of the businesses do in our city or state, they're letting the individuals that drive cars, that have to drive cars for that particular business, whatever it is, don't provide them an automobile, but pay them 50 cents a mile for the use of their own cars. Maybe we could think about doing something like that. It might save us some money on insurance and upkeep and buying new vehicles every couple of years. Thank you.
Any further public comment on the budget? Item number 8 is appointments and approvals. However, I see that Mr. Reese is not here right now. I know that the law has changed and we cannot change the agenda. Would it be permissible to just move this to the last item in case he's running late?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So we will then move number 8, 8A. I'm going to move it till the end. We'll move it to just before mayor and council reports. Having said that, we'll move on to resolutions.
Mayor and council report, did you say?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, I didn't hear what you said.
We're on 9A.
We're going to move the appointment to the bottom.
All right.
Thank you. Manager, there are a number of resolutions on here. I wonder if you or the engineer or someone would like to speak to the sheer number of resolutions?
Yes, Mayor, absolutely. There are a number of resolutions pertaining to the Water Pollution Control Department under item 9. I could tell you that item 9F and number 9E deal with the roof of an underground storage tank at the Plum Creek facility that council was polled for last month. It was considered emergency work, and because of the stimulus funds, we were able to do that. So those 2 items require that the mayor and council ratify an approval that was already given. The other items under 9, you will see beginning at 9G and going through the completion of Section 9. Those are change orders at the Water Pollution Control Department. A lot of the times, change orders happen because of unforeseen circumstances. That is actually not the case with these items. If Mr. Minsterman would be so kind as to explain why there may seemingly be a lot of change orders on this agenda this evening and why that would be.
Thank you. Yes, as the manager has described, these change orders are as a result of getting a cost savings related to additional work. So these are all projects, this is all work that was listed in the stimulus fund project list for the sanitary sewer department. And so what's happening is that we're able to take like items that are needed, basically equipment as part of what is used for repairs at the several of the facilities, and to have contracts that make sense to pick up this additional equipment. So it saves the engineering, it saves the advertising, it saves pre-bid meetings, all of the administrative work that goes along with the bidding is able to be avoided because we have contracts for this same for the same type of work. So it's an opportunity to get the equipment quicker. That's the second part of this, is that the lead times in this type of equipment is long. And so the idea is we can save 2 to 2.5 months by not bidding and ordering this equipment now and getting it ordered in line for delivery. So that's another reason is time. So some of these, if we go over each one, there are pumps that need to be replaced that are on their last leg. That getting them a couple months earlier could be the difference between, you know, having an emergency situation where a pump goes down, having to bring in a contractor to make the repair or to run a separate pump or a bypass, et cetera. So there's lots of good reasons and lots of ideas for cost savings as a result of these change orders. So if you like, I can go through what each of them are and just give a brief description of what the additional work is.
I would like that. I would like that.
Okay. So if we start with item H, Resolution 2021-50, this is a change order for Frankel Electric. It's a result of approximately 46, actually that's a typo. That should be 44,650 is the actual amount. And that's what that is to do is to install, to supply and install variable frequency drives for the 2 additional pumps and all of the electrical labor and appurtenances for connection of these 2 pumps. So ultimately, we're looking to get these 2 pumps replaced. Because of the funds before stimulus, this is going to be a 2 to 3 year process, and there'll be some gambling in the meantime, hoping that one of them don't break down. It's just being forced to do that, just trying to manage the budget as best as possible. With the stimulus funds, we don't have to wait, and so these 2 additional pumps are listed here to be supplied and installed for that amount. And we've reviewed the cost of the pumps as well as the labor and materials. This is good pricing. What we're also saving from the contracting side is mobilization, insurance, bonding, the types of things that are usually just lump sum in the beginning of a contract that the contractor is absorbing or is recovering those costs. In this case, he doesn't have those. He's already on site, already has the insurance, et cetera. So there's significant cost savings related to the construction side, and these are good prices. We wouldn't have recommended any change order that we did not feel was a fair and equitable price. We would have recommended to rebid those later. So that's the first one. Next is Resolution 2021-51. This is an $86,700 change order. This is to replace a clarifier number 3 at the sewage facility. At the sewage treatment facility. And what that is essentially is this is a second unit. The work already for this contract was for the same type of work, a different clarifier. So this is number 3. So we're asking, let's get the second clarifier while the contractor's in. We've got a great price, and we move this one along as well instead of waiting for possible breakdown. Now that we do have the funds to accelerate these replacements, that is the reason for that that particular change order is to replace and repair clarifier number 3. Next is 2021-52. This is a $110,000 change order. This is to replace 2 pumps at the Plum Creek Pump Station. So the pumps are what generate the flow to the treatment facility. And I talked earlier about the variable frequency drives. That's what runs the pumps, turns the pumps on. They have soft starts and soft stops, and it extends the life of the pumps. This contract is to provide 2 other pumps associated at that same facility. This contract originally was to replace 1 pump, and there are 3 that need replaced, so this change order is to pick up the other 2 pumps and replace them all and have that facility in excellent condition as it relates to the pumping mechanisms, which are the priority of that station. Next is a resolution 2021-53. This is a $249,000 change order. What this is for is when we bid the sewer line repair contract about 5 months ago, or I should say awarded it, there were not enough funds to do all of the repairs. There were 7 repairs that were designated as specialty repairs. That contract is usually for smaller 6 to 15 feet length in repairs. These specialty repairs are longer in nature and more difficult. So we bid them as lump sum so that we can get a better price. So contractors like projects that are a little larger and they can be more aggressive when you give them something large. So $240,000 for 7 locations. You can see that each of them are significant. So those prices were excellent, but we didn't have the money to award them. And I keep saying we didn't have the money. One of the main reasons the Water Pollution Control Department didn't have the money was because of an emergency methane system that needed to be repaired. It cost the community over $300,000 to do that, which we knew that was going to occur, but it actually fell apart a little sooner than we had hoped. So that took a lot of the funds from the Water Pollution Control Department that was forced to be used to fix that facility. Methane's obviously dangerous if it's not controlled. So that took priority. Once the stimulus funds were issued and acknowledged by mayor and council, then that money could be replaced, and now these projects again could be renewed. So this $249,000 is for 7 specialty repair contracts that are they're great prices. That's why and we know that as a result of the other bidders that bid that contract. So this is a really good opportunity to get that work done at an excellent price. So that is 2021-53 change order. And then the last is 2021-54. That is a change order to replace the second pump that's failing within the UV building, and to replace the failing pump feed and digester. It feeds the pump and the digester for the heat exchanger. So once again, another pump that is beginning to fail. And so this is an opportunity. We have a contract that this particular contract was to supply and install our utility water pump, which is what I'm describing. And so this is the labor, materials, and pump to fulfill that obligation. So that is for $38,370. That's a listing of all the change orders that are proposed as a result of the situation that I've described.
Thank you so much. I know that seems as if it was out of order, but I thought the long explanation was necessary because, unless I'm mistaken, that methane was literally a potentially matter of life or death. Is that correct?
Yes, it was significantly concerned about an explosive atmosphere.
Okay, thank you so much.
Welcome.
May I get a motion for Resolution 9A?
Mayor Calabrese, before we move on, may I make a comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Yes, please.
Okay, that's okay. So I just want to clarify, Mr. Ministerman, because council's pretty much aware of what's going on and we understand it, but the public may not really understand the verbiage, and you did a very good job explaining it. But I just want to clarify that these charges are not due to unforeseen issues.
That is correct, and as a matter of fact, if you chose not to award these and spend the additional funds associated with the engineering, the advertising, and the additional construction cost, you could do that.
Okay, and then just also want to clarify that these contractors are already contracted and working.
Yes, all their insurances, bonding, everything is in place. They're performing well and satisfactorily, and that's another reason why the change orders were proposed. So you know, there is other materials and equipment and labor that could be done, but in working with water pollution control, it either wasn't the right contractor, there wasn't the right contract, there wasn't enough savings, whatever the issue was. So these were all pulled out as excellent candidates.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have one thing to say, to add to that, if I may.
Yes, Councilman.
Just tallying these figures up real rough, there's about $700,000 worth of change orders. Now let's go back to, and that's not counting what the initial repairs, am I right? That's just the change orders are $700,000, and that's not counting what the actual contract's worth.
Yes,
So,
that's right.
I don't, off the top of my head, know what that actual contract's worth, but you got $700 worth of change orders, and you got about $16 million that Director Cohen said to fix the rest of these sewer lines, just to keep them maintained. I know everybody complains about the sewage being high, but I'm trying to point out to you that this is where your money's going. $16 million worth of repairs, $700,000 in change orders, plus the initial cost of the contracts. This is where all the money goes. It's not because of finding costs that we had back in the 80s. It's because the infrastructure of our community is breaking down, and now is the time we have to fix it. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And I'd like to point out that we truly have one of the finest sewer systems, and we're maintaining it and continuing. And quite frankly, we don't have an option. We all need a sewer system.
That's right.
Having said that, unless there's no more question or comment, I'll go through and we will offer public comment as we go through with each resolution. I just thought that this was such a huge change order, and as a result of a life or death situation with the methane, that it was important to give that sort of presentation in the beginning. May I get a motion for Resolution 9A?
I'll make a motion for 9A, Resolution 2021-42, approving the minor budget amendments to the Community Development Block Grant Budget for years 45 and 46.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any comment from council? Roll call.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
9A approved.
May I get a motion for Resolution 9B?
Mayor, I make a motion to accept Resolution 9B, Resolution 2021-43, awarding the Penn Hills 2021 Municipal Demolition Program.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes.
Okay, 9B approved.
May I get a motion for Resolution 9C?
I'll make a motion for 9C, Resolution 2021-44, approving the acquisition and subsequent disposition of vacant property located at Paxico Street, parcel 172-M-280, in accordance with the Allegheny County Vacant Property Recovery Program.
Thank you. May I get a second?
A second.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any public comment? Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci.
Yes.
9C approved.
May I get a motion for Resolution 9D?
I'll make a motion for 9D, Resolution 2021-45, approving a plan revision for new land development tap-in at 1400 Halton Road.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment?
I'm Felix Catlin, 223 Detroit Drive. I'm curious as to what is the nature of this development.
Mr. Blackwell, do you want to address that?
Sure. The development, it's a landscape construction yard, landscape business, and really I feel like the resolution, this is something that's prepared that we need to submit to the state and DEP. And so when it says new development, you'll find that every new single-family home tap-in, every new business tap-in has to fill out a sewer module, and that's what this is. Mayor and council approved that sewer module. And so but the new development is a business that is going in right now, actually. Mm-hmm.
Any further public comment? Any comment from council? May I get a motion for Resolution 9D? I'm sorry. Roll call, please.
On number 2021-45, Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey.
Yes.
Okay, 9D approved.
Thank you. May I get a motion for Resolution 9F?
Can I just ask one question before you get started? Can we do them all in one resolution, approving all of them at one time, since we've already gone over them, instead of reading each one? Is that feasible, Manager Andrejchak?
I don't think we're there yet, though. Councilman, you're talking about the change order, correct?
That is correct, just like the school district does. We approve Resolution 2021 through 2121-54.
But I don't think we're there. We're just not there yet. I mean, it looks like there's a typographical error. It goes from A, B, C, D, and then it looks like F, and then E, and then F again.
Right.
So I think that's why you may be confused, because this is not, maybe, can we correct that right now, Solicitor?
Sure, absolutely.
So actually, Councilman, we are on, that would actually be E. That would be Resolution 9E, but it's, the typographical error says F.
Okay, so can we do it from E to I?
Well, we're still not there yet. This is for the change order with the Westmoreland Sanitary landfill.
Sean, once they get down to the change orders that Mr. Minsterman went over, we can do all those in one fell swoop, as you're indicating. I think the mayor wants to do the ones before that individually.
Yeah, I do see that there's two Fs on this resolution, unless I'm looking at, unless mine's wrong. There's two Fs on it.
That's a typographical error, but the resolution and the resolution numbers are correct.
Okay.
So when we get there, I'll just correct that, and I'll do it in one fell swoop.
All right.
So having said that, if we correct it, then I would say, may I please get a motion for 9E, Resolution 2021-46?
I'll make a motion for 9E, Resolution 2021-47, ratifying the award of the Long Road Equalization.
No, Councilman, we're not there yet.
That's what my page
Westmoreland
says.
Sanitary Landfill.
Let's just dispense with the lettering, because there's some mistakes, and just call out the resolution number. This is Resolution 2021-46, right, Mayor?
That's
All
right,
right,
yes.
Resolution 2021-46, ratifying the change order with Westmoreland County Sanitary Landfill in the amount of $77,600.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Any public comment? Any comment from council? I'd just like to say it looks easy when you're sitting there. Up here, you got to keep everything in order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Resolution 46 approved.
May I get a motion for Resolution 47?
I'll make a motion for Resolution 2021-47, ratifying the award of Long Road Equalization Tank to Kukaran Contracting Incorporated in the amount of $112,000.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment?
Felix Catlin, 223 Detroit Drive. As a neighbor of Long Road, I was hoping Mr. Minsterman could just give us a brief synopsis of what this project entails. Thank you.
That's the roof project. Madam President, would you like me to respond?
Yes, please.
Yes, so this is a ratification of work that was proposed as a result of an emergency situation. There are large underground concrete tanks located at the Long Road facility that used to be a treatment plant. That facility was transferred into an equalization facility, which means it picks up the excess flow that the piping can't handle, and it puts it into these tanks during a rain event. And when the rain stops, then it lets the flow from those tanks back into the system. So ultimately, it controls or equalizes the flow to avoid overflows of sewage into the environment. So one of these large tanks was showing signs of cracking. It was being monitored. It showed signs of failing, and actually the roof started to sag. And then it sagged again. So it turned into an emergency situation. There wasn't time to take the 2.5 months to bid this and get the work started. So council ratified the work. We did phone bids. One's an existing contract that you already have in place. I take that back. It wasn't a phone bid. We had already started the process of bidding this contract. And then to accelerate it was not to wait for the next council meeting and to get the contractor authorized to work before that came. So that's why the phone vote was issued. So in any event, they're working now, and that is hoped to be resolved here in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Any comment from council? May I get a motion for Resolution 47?
We just did that. We're on 48 now.
I'm sorry. We have to take a roll call.
Yeah, we have to vote.
Yeah, roll call, please.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Resolution 47 approved.
Thank you. May I get a motion for Resolution 48?
Mayor, I'll make the resolution, I'll make the motion that we accept resolution number 2021-48, approving the intergovernmental cooperation agreement for the Heritage Heights planned residential development with authorization for the mayor and the manager to sign.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? Yes, please.
Christine Miller, 109 Garlow Drive. What type of planned community is this, and where is it?
Would you like to address that?
Yeah, this is a residential development in Wilkins Township primarily, and I'm going to allow Chris to give you a little more nuanced answer. But there's 26 homes being developed, 9 of which are partially in Penn Hills and partially in Wilkins. So under this agreement and under the municipality's planning code, we're able to essentially give authority to Wilkins to manage that development under their zoning ordinance. Do you want to fill in the blanks for me, Chris?
Yeah, I don't think there's many blanks to fill in really, but yeah, they're building where the former Eastmont School was. They're building 26 homes. There's 26 lots, and like Mr. Andrzejczyk said, just the rear portion of some of the lots of 9 of the 26 lots happen to be located in Penn Hills. Down over the slope is the Parkway. There are a few homes in Penn Hills, but this agreement, the developer would have to come to both planning commissions, both zoning hearing boards, stormwater they'd have to go through both communities, and they could do that, but we believe it's a little bit of a burden and not necessary. So as Mr. Andrzejczyk said, the municipality's planning code allows us to have an intergovernmental agreement where we agree to be the non-controlling municipality and they're the controlling municipality, and we absolve all our our control of the development. But as Mr. Andrzejek and I discussed before the meeting, it doesn't absolve them of paying taxes to Penn Hills.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Any comment from council?
Yes, I have a question. So Chris, you'll be in close contact. They will be in communication with you with regards to?
Yes, and they actually have. I have really no concerns. They've already been to the Wilkins Planning Commission and been approved. And this was something that was kind of noticed later on. We discussed this with Allegheny County to make sure that everybody was on board, Wilkins and their solicitor and our solicitor, and to make sure that everybody, this could happen. And they've already been to their planning commission. They've got landscape buffer to the homes. They've got stormwater management, swale back there. There's really would be nothing for us to add. And although we have a fantastic planning commission and zoning hearing board, we agree that theirs is probably equally as able to perform this decision.
Okay, that's great.
Any further comment from council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Petrucci.
Yes.
Councilman Getzey.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes.
Resolution 48 approved.
May I get a motion for Resolution 49?
Thought we were going to do the change orders all in one.
Before you do that, Mr. Petrucci, Mr. Minsterman, you indicated on Resolution 2021-50, there's a typographical error. It should be 44-650, is that correct?
Yes.
So a motion would be in order if the mayor wishes to do them all at once. A motion to approve Resolution 2021-49 through 2021-55 as amended on 2021-50.
So I don't amend that first, we just go through with it?
It's in the motion.
Okay.
2021-50 is the one that has the typographical error in it.
Right.
Oh,
we're
you're
just going
saying 55 is not in it.
through 54.
So let me rephrase. The motion would be, thank you, Mr. Catlin. The motion would be motion to approve resolutions 2021-49 through 2021-54 with 2021-50 as amended to 44-650.
May I get a motion to approve Resolution 49 through 54 as amended, and Resolution 50 to reflect that the typographical error is changed to $44,650?
Mayor Calabrese, I'll make that motion that we accept Resolution 2021-49 all the way through 54 with the notification of 50 fixed at $44,650.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Getzey.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci.
Yes.
Okay, 49 through 54 passed.
May I get a motion for Resolution 55?
I'll make a motion for Resolution 2021-55, approving the acquisition and subsequent disposition of vacant property located at 561 Logie Road, parcel 451-D-177, in accordance with the Allegheny County Vacant Property Recovery Program.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci.
Yes.
Councilman Getzey.
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 55 approved.
Thank you. May I get a motion for approval of Ordinance 10A?
I'll make a motion for ordinance 10A, 2021-2686, an ordinance of the municipality of Penn Hills, County of Allegheny, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending the 2021 general operating budget, stormwater fund, and capital, providing for stimulus fund programs in the 2021 budget.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci.
Yes.
Okay, 2686 approved.
Thank you. May I get a motion for ordinance 10B?
Mayor, I make a motion that we accept ordinance 10B, 2021-2687, an ordinance of the municipality of Penn Hills, County of Allegheny, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, authorizing a cable franchise agreement between the municipality of Penn Hills and Comcast Communications Management, LLC.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? Thank you. Any comment from council?
Yes, I have a question, Mayor.
Yes.
So this will probably go to Scott. Scott, so can you just tell us the contract time will be what this time? Is it going to be the same as last year, like 10 years?
We are going to get the legal maximum from Comcast in terms of what the cable franchise is. I believe it is a 10-year agreement as well. That might seem not long enough, might seem too long, but that is the term that Comcast insists on in all of these agreements that are done by Cohen. So for us, we're going to continue to get 5% of gross revenues. I think we actually just got that again today, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So for us, there's really no big change.
That is the maximum amount that they are able to offer.
That is the max, okay. 10 year. All right, and then, so I did hear Sherry agree that we got a check today from them, so that's good. I don't know if the audience is aware that our franchise agreement, our franchise tax is something that the vendors pay back to the municipality. So on your bill, on your cable bill, you'll see a line. I'm not quite sure what that line says. I don't have Comcast. But on that line where you see that other fee comes into Penn Hills. So that is where we get that money. And Scott, what is that line?
Between for Verizon and Comcast, Sherry could pull it out of the budget.
Yeah, I'm sorry to
for
put you on
both,
the
because I
spot.
think they're combined.
Yes.
The one other thing I wanted to note is that under the renewal, Comcast is going to pay Penn Hills about $36,000, and that money, it's supposed to be used for video equipment. Really, in truth, it could be used for anything. Our thinking was that the money that we get from that 36, that would pay for some of the improvements that we're making that you might have noticed tonight in terms of the permanent cameras and things that we're going to use for to broadcast the council meetings. That money that we're getting from Comcast could basically pay for those things.
Okay, that's
for
awesome.
probably a few years, I would imagine.
For a few, okay. Sherry?
The account number on page 12 is the cable TV franchise. It's 0132100 8100.
Okay. That's good. Thank you. Thank you so much for that clarification, Scott and Sherry.
Any further comment from council? Roll call, please.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2687 approved.
So at this time, we've finished the resolutions and the ordinance, but we need to swing back to number 8 on the agenda, appointments and approvals. I had sent notice out to Attorney Albert Reese. I don't see him here. Nonetheless, obviously something has occurred that he couldn't be present. But I am very, very proud to say that it is my distinct honor, privilege and pleasure to appoint Attorney Albert Reese to the Penn Hills Personnel Committee for a term beginning October 21st, 2021, and ending on October 20th, 2024. Attorney Reese is a business owner here, a homeowner. He is an attorney who's located on Rodi Road. He lives within the community. Many of you, I'm sure, know him. You see him about in the community. Although Allegheny County courts have been closed for COVID, and I can tell you that I personally was in the courtroom physically for the first time just about 2 weeks ago, because we have been doing everything remotely. But I can tell you, when I see Mr. Reese in the courtroom, it's really a pleasure to watch him work. It's one thing when people behave in such a way when they know people are watching them, but it's quite a different measure when you don't realize that anybody's watching you and you still behave and perform at your highest level. Attorney Reese is always a gentleman. He's always professional, and I feel that we are fortunate to have him as a resident and as a business owner and attorney in Penn Hills. And I would ask, it's unfortunate that he's not here, so perhaps maybe he can come to one of the next meetings so that his family can see him getting this honor. Having said that, I would I'd like to make a motion to appoint and have the approval of Attorney Albert Reese to the Penn Hills Personnel Committee for a term beginning October 21st, 2021, and ending on October 20th, 2024. May I get a second, please?
I guess we need to second it anyway, so we can talk about it. I'll second it, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would say, is there any public comment? Anybody who knows Attorney Reese, if you'd like to make comment. Otherwise, I would ask that you please come back whenever his family's able to be here with him. We'd like to take roll call at this time.
Felix Catlin, 223 Detour Drive. It seems like we're hitting an impasse with appointments. So when public comment is closed, when I sit down in about 2 seconds, I'll be really interested to hear what council has to say about why this isn't going through rapidly.
Any further public comment?
Chris Miller, 109 Garlow Drive. What actually are the duties of this lawyer on this committee? You can't hear me. What are the duties of a lawyer on this?
What are the duties of the Personnel Board? Is that the question?
Not on?
Yes.
My ears aren't on, I'm sorry. They act as your civil service commission here in the municipality of Penn Hills. In your home rule charter, the Civil Service Commission is renamed the Personnel Board.
Okay.
So they certify, they commission examinations, civil service examinations for the hiring of police officers. They certify that list to mayor and council. They hold what's called personnel board meetings, hearings, should somebody choose to go to the civil service board or the personnel board as opposed to going to arbitration and discipline disputes. Any function that a civil service commission would do in a regular community, the personnel board does in this home rule charter community of Penn Hills.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We have a new council coming in, but and I would ordinarily would have held this until Mr. Reese and his family can be present. However, it's imperative that we have this appointment approved because we need to do some hiring of some police officers. Any comment from council?
Mayor Calabrese, I have a comment. I'd like to say, in the absence of Mr. Albert Reese, I haven't received a resume. I don't know this gentleman. I haven't had an opportunity to speak with him, so, and he's not present this evening. So I'd like to see a resume and at least have the opportunity to speak with him before he's appointed to council. Thank you. I'm sorry, before he's appointed to the Personnel Committee.
And Mr. Caitlin, I'd respond. I agree with what the council person said, and I'd like to see the man, I'd like to hear him. This is a cold judgment we have to make here. I'm not really sure of who he is, why he's here, any background. I'd like to see a resume, I'd like to see him. This is just too cold of a decision to look at one sentence and vote on.
So let me defer to the solicitor. Will that hold up the hiring of police officers, or can we move this to December?
Well, I'm not certain on the answer to that. I know that we've been trying to test for police officers for some time, so it will certainly hold up the testing of police officers another month if it doesn't proceed. I don't know where we are in the testing procedure because I don't think we've had a full complement or even enough to get a quorum on the personnel board and to be able to commission that examination for new police officers. I don't know if the manager or the chief has any additional knowledge on that. I do know that they've been wanting to move forward with testing new officers and haven't been able to do that.
Mayor, I'd like to ask, I do see the chief in the audience. Chief, can you tell us what is the capacity of our department right now as far as our officers are concerned?
Good evening. We are staffed currently for 53 officers. We're budgeted for 53. We currently have 49, so we have 4 vacancies. And the new budget, the manager added 4 more positions for next year, so we'll be up to 57. So at this point, we have to move forward and hire, at least fill the 4 spots we have now. We're currently in the process. We have 17 applicants. So we've had the polygraphs done. We're currently doing their background investigations. And at that point in time, probably within the next week or 2, we should have a group of folks we can take a look at and determine if we're going to hire them or not.
Okay. To my knowledge, we've been at 53 for a while, though, right? I mean,
yes, ma'am. We've had 53 for quite a number of years.
Yeah, for a number of years, right?
Yes.
So, is there any emergency to have these officers in right away?
Well, at this point, we do need to fill the 4 spots. Like I said, we're still in the process. We still have 2 officers off the workman's comp, so now we're down 2 there. We have officers going to the military to spend time there, so even though we're down 4, we're technically down 6 to 7. And we fill those vacant shifts with overtime officers. So at that point in time, it's still in the process. It's going to take another 3 to 4 weeks to go through the background checks on the officers. So,
Okay.
That's what we're looking at right now.
So that would take us up to our next council meeting, give us a chance to get a resume in from Mr. Reese, right, Mayor?
I think we have to move for roll call because I was told that this was really something that was imperative that we get done so that they can have the testing and follow the protocol and do everything that has to be done.
Okay. So I'm not understanding. So you said, Chief, 3 to 4 weeks of the process right now, from where we are now, it's going to take up about...
Probably 2 to 3 weeks right now. Like I said, we're requiring a credit report from each of the individuals applying for the job. We have 2 of them turned in already, so we're still waiting for them to turn those in, and we're still waiting for the individuals we hired to do the background investigations. So that could happen within the next 1 to 2 weeks, depending how fast they move.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And so it will be, so if we're at 4 weeks, 4 weeks is going to take us to another meeting, and if we don't have it, then we're into the new year.
That's a possibility, yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Chief.
Mhm.
I have a question. Can we get a resume, take a look at this guy, we can call him and talk to him? Can we do a special phone poll on this to speed up the system? I think everybody's in the same, the norm of the situation was that prior councils and even when I first got on, there was a resume that was always put out on any candidate that was going to be appointed to a board. And then the council had a time to talk to this person and kind of get to know him a little bit before they voted on him, yes or no. I understand this is an emergency, but if I remember correctly, this has been of our urgency probably for the last 2 months. I mean, this should have been done probably 2 months ago. And the can was kicked down the road, and now all of a sudden we're getting forced to make a decision. I'm not comfortable with it. I'd still like to talk to the guy and see who he is and fill him out a little bit. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know how the rest of council feels about it, but the norm was we always got a resume, we always did our background, and then we voted on the person.
Okay, roll call, please.
On item 8A, approval of appointment of Albert Reese. Mayor Calabrese?
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci?
No.
Councilman Getzey?
No.
Deputy Mayor Sapp?
No.
We move to item number 11, Mayor and Council reports.
I have a report.
I'm sorry, Mr. Getzey, as we normally do, we start with the Deputy Mayor and then we go alphabetically.
Thank you for that correction.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Sapp, do you have any report?
Yes, I just actually have a comment, and I was wondering if we would be able to look at a traffic light being put on Rhode Road at the intersection of the gas station where the exit and entrance way is into the Penn Hill Shopping Center. As I stood there not long ago, I noticed that that's a really dangerous intersection, and I was just wondering if we could consider putting a traffic light there. I don't know what it involves, what type of study, but it's a very dangerous intersection. So that's all I have.
I can contact PennDOT about that to see what they might initiate by way of a study.
I think they have to determine that it's warranted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Getzey, you have a report?
Yes, I do. This is in regard to the emergency injunction regarding Chief Burton and the appointment of other policemen. And I'm going to read this statement because it's brief, it summarizes it, but the hearing itself was so convoluted and complicated, it would be hard for me to sit up here and describe it in any logical, reasonable kind of way that would be understood. So I'm reading this statement. I really wouldn't even want to answer questions about this, but I would make this statement available to anybody who would like to have a copy of what I'm saying. Emergency injunction. I attended the hearing on November 10th before the motions judge in Common Pleas Court in regard to the emergency injunction that was served on Penn Hills that removed the opportunity for the current council to, 1, vote to accept Chief Burton's resignation, and 2, vote to appoint Lieutenant Meyer as the new chief of police. Attorney Craig Alexander represented the defendant, Penn Hills. Mayor Calabrese was also in attendance. Frank Pecora appeared for the plaintiffs who petitioned for the injunction. No attorney was present for the plaintiffs. The case that the injunction was based on came from a situation in Pitcairn where after an election in which 4 members of council lost their seats, those 4 members, 5 weeks after the election, then voted to select the new chief of police for Pitcairn. The Commonwealth Court decision held that the outgoing council majority improperly sought to bind the successor council to the appointment of the police chief. In our case, the council was not outgoing. The election had not yet happened, and as our attorney pointed out, there is presently no case law saying when a council becomes a lame duck council. Judge McVeigh said that the court does not have the right to create a remedy for the situation. The clock cannot be turned back to allow for those votes. The emergency injunction was then continued should those items be added to the agenda. At that time, however, the present council would then be considered as outgoing. In other words, the present council cannot again have the opportunity to accept Chief Burton's resignation or to appoint a 30-year veteran as police chief. The reason the plaintiffs were not represented at their hearing by their own attorney is the emergency injunction that the job it was created to do. I would like to add to that prior to this, during this entire process, there were lots of talk and chatter about Chief Burton receiving a buyout amount that was more than he should have got. Chief Burton, by contract, received only what he was due for his years of service. It's a common practice, it's a common thing here as when employees leave. There was no buyout situation where we offered him anything more than what he had earned, which was by contract. I think the contract would be available if anybody wanted to see it, and I will defer to our solicitor if he would like to add any more about this, what I thought was a very jargon-filled legalistic presentation, and thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Petrucci.
Yes, I have a couple items that I want to discuss tonight. I'm happy to announce that the Monument Committee will be meeting to discuss the reinstallation of the Vietnam Veteran War Monument. The Rome Monument has agreed to reinstall the monument on the property of the municipality. The site is in front of the rain garden, which will be evaluated. This monument is important for two reasons. One, it pays tribute to our men and women who served and lost their life in the Vietnam War. Number two, that people in this community paid for that monument and to have it sculptured and put up and installed. I made a statement when I founded this monument committee a few years back that no man gets left behind at the old municipal building. And this is the last piece of the puzzle. So hopefully we can get some closure on that and get the monument installed. Second thing I want to talk about is Reverend Ryan Manners, Bridging Rivers Community Alliance Church, called me. He's still he's still extremely interested in renting the McKinley Center. A lot of different ideas he has: athletic leagues, camps and clinics for kids, arts and music programs for kids, food bank distribution, senior citizen services, community picnics and dinners, festivals and carnivals, health clinics, gym, basketball court, pavilion, and ball field rentals. So I would hope and pray that maybe this council or the council after me would decide to rent this property to him and make him make that center once more a vibrant part of our community. I know Mayor Recupero is in the audience. I spoke to him about it before also, and he agrees with me. And if he would like to say a few words, he's more than welcome after I'm done. But he is all for somebody else going in there also and bringing it back up to what it once was. I'm also going to make a formal request at this time, maybe from Mayor Andrzejczyk, that we get the tax returns from that facility from 2013 to 2020. Now, I don't know if is Joanne Fasciani in the audience?
It looks, yes.
Okay, so she is the treasurer of the organization as far as the tax returns go from 2013. So I would make a formal request, and the formal request is not only coming from a councilman, it's coming from the request is coming from a citizen of the community that thinks this is a cash cow for everybody, and that we need to put a stop to it and get some rent for that building. Now, I contacted the IRS, and it says all 501c3s are required to share their tax returns with us. Tax exempt and receiving tax deductible contributions. Congress requires 501c3 organizations to disclose information about their organization to the public. So that includes all the 990s and 990 EZs and so forth. So their recommendation is within 24 hours. I'll give them till Friday, and if I don't hear from anything by Friday, I'm gonna contact the IRS. There's $100,000 in assets in that building. That's what they put down on their tax returns, and I wanna see where the money's at. If the council, the next council, decides to put this McKinley Center in the hands of Reverend Ryan Manners and collect $2,500 a month rent, what is McKinley gonna do with the $100,000 they got in assets? That's what I wanna know. So I made my formal request, I made my pitch, and that's all I had for tonight.
Thank you, Councilman.
Mayor, while I was taking a breath after my first presentation, you recognized Councilman Petrucci, and I had a second item I wanted to bring up.
Sure, I apologize. I didn't realize you were just taking a breath. Please go
Yes,
ahead.
I was breathless after my presentation. Thank you. Well, that was a compliment. I want to bring up the stimulus grant. This grant from the Treasury Department, which came out, I believe, in March, is very concerning to me, worrisome, because we got $18 million to be distributed in two $9 million increments over 2 years. And I'm doing a survey, I talked to people, very few people even know about this. Some people say they've heard about it, they don't know what it is. I've talked to people who I thought were eligible to apply for the funds. They were leery. If you look at the regulations, it took me 3 hours to go through the regulations the first time I looked at them. I was a grants manager for HUD for 40 years and was involved in looking and approving and taking money back from clients who didn't do it right, and it's very confusing. This was a good idea by the government to do something to mitigate the negative effects of COVID-19. After that, they put together a program that is so difficult, so wide, that I wish they had called me before they published this, because it just is so confusing. Anyway, I went through that, and what I'm concerned about here is council has never had a discussion, not a judgment, not a vote, just a discussion on this grant. We're talking about $18 million over 2 years that we as a council have never talked about. We have never talked to the manager. This program is now run by one person, which is the manager, and I'm concerned. I looked at the budget that would have been here tonight, and it seems that the stimulus budget is being introduced or incorporated into the general budget. When we took the training earlier this year, it was advised, it was just advised that we keep that separate budget. My fear is that once this money goes into the general budget, we're going to lose its identity. We're not going to be able to track it, and it's just going to be a big mess. And my prediction is that at some point, probably in 2 years, the Treasury Department's going to jump in and say, what are you folks doing with the money? Two things have happened. I saw in the newspaper a couple of weeks ago that a national reporter said the money in this program is being moved slowly. It's a tough start. And I understand why, because if you read those regulations and it goes to somebody who is not familiar with grants, it's overwhelming. If I was in charge of this and that those regulations were presented to me, I'd probably say, forget it, I don't even understand what this is about. But since I do understand what it's about, it's intimidating. The manager is in control of this right now. One person, in my opinion, is controlling this. There's no discussion, and this, the qualification for this is it mitigates the damage done by the COVID virus. So what I'm looking for is any project that is done under this has to meet that requirement. I didn't make this requirement up. I just read it and I'm passing it along to you. So what I'm saying is this council has to at least discuss it. If they don't discuss it, I want to go on record as saying, I have sent council, the manager and council, several memos with this message. I think the public needs to have the attention it needs to do this. There's money floating out there, and I'm afraid that this money is going to be spent outside of the intent of Congress, and it'll just be a big mess. So with that, I will say to the manager, to the mayor, what are your plans? There is no specific line-by-line plan, to my knowledge, at this time. There are some ideas floated around. I want something more definitive. I want to see a budget. I want to see activities, and I want to see the stimulus grant work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Getzey. Just because this was invoked at this time, I'm going to give the manager an opportunity to respond to the statement right now that this matter has not been discussed.
Thank you, Mayor. And I don't begrudge anyone for having an opinion, certainly not Mr. Getzey either. And I think anybody could look at the proposal that was made. I think we advanced the stimulus dollars since the spring, rather thoughtfully. We had several meetings here in this room to talk about the stimulus. Whenever the plan was developed, not necessarily by me, but it was developed by the staff and in discussion with the mayor and council, that was all brought before the public to show how we intend to spend the stimulus dollars this year and next. One of the items that the council voted on this evening was actually how to spend stimulus dollars in the 2021 budget. That ordinance amendment was presented 2 months ago. So it's all been out there for the public to see. So if I would have any disagreement with the comments, it would only be to the extent that we have had discussion with the public. We did set up an email address to take input from Penn Hills residents that they may have an idea about the stimulus and how maybe it ought to be used. And they certainly can reach out to their elected officials and myself and express those opinions. But we have had some discussions here on the matter, and we're open to it. The 2022 budget proposal is just that. It's a proposal. It doesn't get approved until the end of the year. We have a second budget hearing next week, and then there's basically an entire month. The budget's usually not adopted until the last meeting of the year, so nothing's carved in stone at this point.
Thank you. I'm going to say to those of you in the audience and to anybody else who's aware of this council meeting, if anybody wants more detail about this, I will be willing to speak to any individuals, groups, and explain and go through the requirements, the regulations of how this money is to be spent, what its intent is. And this is not a way to enhance the capital budget. It's not a tax reduction program. It's to mitigate the negative effects of the COVID virus. I can explain it if anybody wants to hear it, and anybody wants to invite me to any type of discussion, individual, group, I'm available. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Getzey. I don't know, maybe I'm God's favorite, but I could not have orchestrated tonight. I call for the appointment of a member for the Personnel Board. It's been on the agenda since last week. And I come in here, and it's typically routine. When a mayor appoints someone, there's a routine confirmation. That didn't happen tonight. So maybe this further answers your question. When I ran for mayor, I ran against Councilman John Petrucci. And I said that I would be happy to work with any member of council, whoever was elected, I would be happy to work to move Penn Hills forward. Very soon into my tenure, it became abundantly clear that my hands were going to be tied. I couldn't appoint anybody. I couldn't get anything passed that I personally wanted. One of the things that's been said publicly by Councilman Petrucci is that that because the McKinley, that Rotary did not go into McKinley because of me. I personally asked one question of McKinley that was related to finances. I said, how is it that you're going to be able to pay the rent? That's a simple question. I'm not an expert in Rotary, but as far as I know, I've spoken many, many times at many Rotaries throughout many different communities. My understanding is that 100% of the money that is raised by Rotary must go back into the community. At that time, a member of Rotary said, we're not sure how we would channel that money. We have to work on that vehicle. Since that time, Rotary withdrew their application. Thereafter, we had another individual that was scheduled to be voted on at our regularly scheduled meeting in October. We didn't have a quorum that night. 3 members of council, the 3 members tonight that voted against the appointment, Deputy Mayor Sapp, Councilman John Petrucci, and Councilman Jim Getzey, all called in and said they were sick. Apparently so sick that they could not appear by Zoom. They could not even pick up a telephone call to participate. That charter says that it takes 3 votes. If you watch the votes all year long, there was a 3-member majority. At any time, they could have had somebody come into McKinley that they preferred. At any time, they could have done whatever they wanted to do with the chief of police. Let me make this abundantly clear right now so that there is absolutely no discrepancy whatsoever. When we talk about the position of the chief of police and/or Chief Burton himself, it is so unfortunate that 3 men have been dragged through this. The chief himself and the 2 internal candidates and also an external applicant, Mr. Dom Costa. Let me make, if you wonder, hey, I wonder what's happening behind the scenes, there should be no behind the scenes. The only sort of behind the scenes, if there is one at all, is when there is an executive session. Executive session is not to be discussed in public so that we can talk about personnel matters without having people's names dragged into this. When a person applies for employment, they don't expect their name to be dragged through the mud. I tried to honor that. We had a regularly scheduled council meeting on October 18th. Since 3 members of council called in sick, we did not have a quorum. Thereafter, they called a special meeting. At that meeting, it was stated that I, in executive session, picked up the telephone and called Mr. Dom Costa to speak with him about the chief of police position. This is the opportunity that I have tonight to clear my name, and I would like to take that opportunity, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but let me tell you first of all what an executive session looks like. What it looks like is we are physically in person, and this is what it looked like the night that we had the executive session on the chief of police. The manager is there, the solicitor is there, and each and every member of council along with the mayor is there. I'm going to ask the 2 disinterested individuals to please answer this question truthfully and honestly. Solicitor, at that executive meeting, did I pick up the phone and call Mr. Dom Costa?
I have no recollection of that, Mayor.
Manager, did I pick up the telephone and call Mr. Dom Costa?
I don't have any recollection of any phone call being made out of.
Do either of you have a recollection of me picking up a telephone at all, whether it is the one that sits on the table or whether it was my own personal cell phone?
No.
No.
And so here we sit. Innuendo, rumor. I operate in the sunshine. I respect the Sunshine Act. And that's why I'm baffled when we have things like, oh, we never talk about the stimulus package. That's supposed to be, has been, and is, even tonight. That's what we're talking about. Let me tell you exactly what has occurred with the chief of police position, so we historically can have this clear. We're not going to talk about rumor. We're not going to talk about innuendo. I'm going to talk about undisputed facts. Chief Burton had a contract, which historically there has not been a contract for the chief, but nonetheless he had a contract. The contract came up for renewal. That was back in July of 2020. At that time, I voted against the renewal of that contract. Councilman Pecora voted against the renewal of that contract. However, Deputy Mayor Sapp, Councilman Petrucci, and Councilman Jim Getzey all voted for the renewal of that, with an increase in pay, with other terms of the contract. My no vote was, I said then and I'll say now, was not an indictment of Chief Burton. My no vote was an indictment of that particular contract and the terms of the contract. Make no mistake about it. Penn Hills is in no position to give what I am calling, and this is a term that I made up, these the golden parachute, or the sweetheart deal. Remember, the last manager, Mo Ryan, left with what was termed a sweetheart deal. We're not in any position to do that any longer. We just can't do it. It is the contract itself and terms of the contract that I have issues with. We decided that we were going to post the job internally, the position internally. We did that, and we got two very, very, very fine candidates. In addition to that, with no solicitation from myself, Mr. Dom Costa, who was chief of police in the city and who had served as the public safety director here in Penn Hills, apparently, because I didn't receive it from him, I received it from the manager. Each and every one of us on council received the resume of Mr. Dom Costa from the manager. In my mind, this is an internal position. If one of the internal candidates do not make it, then we can open it up, in my mind, externally. I asked this council if they wanted to meet as a group with each of the candidates. I was told no. I scheduled interviews for myself and to be present with with the manager. At that time, one of the candidates contracted COVID. We had a conversation over the telephone. Everything stopped then. See, what happened was there was a majority that could have, should have, and probably would have if they had corrected the timing. They could have appointed a chief at any time they wanted. They had the majority. But there was an election coming up. And believe me, there's a difference between late and too late. They waited. They were too late. They waited too long. Now they have this argument, this conspiracy theory that I want to shove some candidate down their throat. No, rather they wanted to shove a candidate down my throat. But it's not about the candidate for me. It's about the terms of employment. We have to stop the golden parachutes. We have to stop the sweetheart deals. There was nothing nefarious or bad or anything that happened here. There's no backroom deal. We just need to be upfront. We need to have a good process. We're going to have a new council coming in. I'm very excited about that. We have interviews scheduled to be conducted. Penn Hills will not go without a chief, I assure you. Even if it's an acting chief, we will have a chief, and we will have one timely. It's unfortunate that Chief Burton was not permitted to retire with dignity. It's unfortunate this was turned into a circus by some people that want to have these conspiracy theories. I never did, nor do I have the power to hold up anything surrounding McKinley. I never did, nor do I have the power to hold up anything surrounding the chief of police. I just want to do it in the sunshine, and I just want to do it in a proper way. Having said that, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to move forward in a real positive way. You can be the judge of the characters of each of us who sit up here. You can be the judge as to whether or not 3 people coincidentally were so ill at the same time that all 3 of them had to miss a meeting.
You want a doctor's excuse from
Mayor
me?
Calabrese,
No, I don't.
I was
Excuse-
in the
I'm not-
hospital
I'm not
and
through.
I was on an IV in the emergency room. I was not going to be on Zoom that evening. I
Excuse
was
me.
not going to call in, and I was in Forbes Hospital. Matter of fact, I went to UPMC first and then was transported to Forbes Hospital.
Okay,
Thank
very
you
well.
very much.
Very well. You can be the judge as to whether 3 people were hospitalized at the same time. Maybe. It may be. At any rate, I'm very excited to move forward. I'm very excited of the things that we have done. I'm very excited of the things that the way that our where's Faith? Is she still here?
Yeah.
It's been an excellent year with you, Faith. Thank you so much for all of your efforts. And I see Kathy Rayborn here with the Shade Tree Commission. Thank you so much for all of your efforts. And John Scaglione is here. Wonderful, wonderful presentation in Halloween. You always do a fabulous job. I see Felix Catlin is still here. On October 27th, I represented Penn Hills at the Allegheny Land Trust Greenway concept meeting. They had many meetings prior to that. There were municipal officials, there were water quality experts there were community stakeholders. I attended with Mr. Catlin at the summary meeting. There will be more time, I believe, in early next year for have more community input. This Thursday, I will be with the CDC. It's pretty exciting to look forward that Leadership Pittsburgh will be working with us. In terms of the boards and commissions, obviously I'm going to have to wait until the new council is seated so that we can move forward and fill all of those positions. But it's so exciting to think that as we go forward, we will have a new chief of police. We will have all of the boards and commissions filled, and we're just going to move forward. I do not want to be mired down any further in these conspiracy theories and rumors and the circus atmosphere. I just want to move forward in a real positive and professional manner. And I look forward to working with you, and please keep in mind that we are having more budget hearings, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the money in the sunshine, and that includes the stimulus money. Having said that,
Mayor,
I hope you...
may I ask you a question before the audience leaves?
This really is not a time for question and answer.
Well, you'd monopolized this for the last 5 minutes, so may I just ask one question of you while we're going down memory lane?
Well, actually, so I'll make the exception, and I will let you ask me a question.
Thank you very much. I think it was maybe 3 council meetings ago when you stood up and asked council to vote on removing the Chief Burton, and asked for a vote which was turned down 3-2 by the people you say are your conspirators, that you got up and said, I make a motion that we remove Chief Burton from his position. Now, I don't have the council meeting minutes with me. I think I can produce them, and I looked them up afterwards, and that was the motion, and we voted it down. Now, you talk about conspiracy, you talk about underhandedness. To stand up at a council meeting cold with no other explanation and say, I move that we fire the chief, is to me the most blatant disregard of any protocol, any justice, any reasonable method of doing business.
I'm sorry, what is your question?
My question is, did you stand up? No, I'm not asking you a question. I'm telling you that you stood up and said, let's fire the chief.
Okay.
And made a motion, and it was voted down 3-2.
I'm going to answer.
Out of the cold, with no explanation, no reason, you asked the chief be fired.
Okay, I'm going to answer the question, and then we're not going to go back and forth because we can have a, that's more appropriate for a workshop forum.
If we
As
ever
I
have a
understood
workshop.
as I understood the question was, do I recall standing up and making a motion for the chief to be fired? No, I absolutely, positively never, ever asked that the chief be fired. What I asked for was, I made a motion as to whether or not we should ask for the chief's resignation. Those are very, very different concepts. The reason I asked for that was because, and I'm going to give this explanation, and I've said this 1,000 times, I'm sorry if you did not catch it, or you don't get it, or you don't recall what happened. As you know, Councilman Getze, mayor and council do not hire and we do not fire anybody. In fact, I often get calls, emails, texts, people see me in Giant Eagle, whatever, and they ask if I can get somebody in their family a job. And I specifically say no, and you really don't even want me to get involved in that. That's improper. None of us hire or fire. We're not even permitted to go to each of the department heads and tell them how to run their employees. Having said that, there was a hiring of a police officer who came from Wilkinsburg. I did not hire him. The deputy mayor did not hire him. Mayor and council did not hire him. My understanding is that there was a meeting. I was not at the meeting, and as far as I know, no one else here was, no other member of council was at a meeting. On the recommendation of the chief, the manager hired this police officer who was under investigation from a fatal shooting. He was hired. Thereafter, we were told that the hire was proper because the officer was, according to the state, permitted to wear a badge and carry a gun. However, somebody said, oh, gee, that must have been a mistake to hire him. And so then the officer was fired. So in my mind, we have a couple things going on. Number one, that officer could have, would have, and as I understand, has grieved that process, could sue us. And I was told, so what if he sues us? He'll win, get his job back, and then we just pay the attorneys, we pay the deductible. That's a lot of money. That could be upwards of over $100,000 to just pay for that. So first of all, we've got that cost. Secondly, we've got the cost of morale. Somebody made a mistake in hiring this officer. It was a mistake to hire him, and it was a mistake to fire him. But somebody had to pay for the mistake. Who was going to pay for the mistake? Oh, the officer will pay for it. And then Penn Hills will pay for it. So there needs to be accountability. There must be accountability. And although I have tremendous respect for the chief, I thought that perhaps we could ask him to stand up and say, hey, the buck stops here. Not going to get fired, going to resign, and the buck stops here. That didn't happen, but I wanted there to be accountability. So I never asked for his firing. I asked for his resignation. They're significantly different. The contract is significantly different. That's what happened. So let's move on from conspiracy theories, innuendo, and accusations, and let's move forward. And I'm so excited about our new budget, and please come to the next meetings because this is your money. Look at this and let's see how it's spent. Thank you so much.
Mayor,
Have a very good night.
May I suggest everybody on council get equal time with you to make their presentations?
I've given everybody,
And let me
I've given
say this.
everybody their
It was the
time.
manager who
This
hired the
meeting-
policeman, not the police chief. It was the manager who did the hiring.
At the
manager did
recommendation.
the firing,
This
not the
meeting is
police chief.
adjourned.
You're very deceitful.
This meeting is adjourned.